into our web room. You've arrived in the right place. The Rocket Company today is going to provide you with some training on digital giving, right? We know that you're here because you want more money so that you can do what? Go do more ministry. So we are so excited that you're here. We're going to talk today about 3 myths regarding digital giving that are costing your church donations right now. Dollars are being left on the table, and we're going to talk about those things that are holding you back, and then I'm going to cover some practical things you can do so that as you move ahead and make changes, you can get more total dollars for more ministry. My name is Sam Hill, and I'm a team leader at the Rocket Company. Totally excited to spend time with you. As you are coming in, I want you to do one very important thing, actually 2. The first thing, number 1, figure out where the chat kind of question area is so that you can introduce yourself, tell us who you are and where you're from. It'll also be the place where you'll put in questions about digital giving, questions on today's content as well. So go ahead and find that. Just tell us who you are and tell us where you're tuning in from. It'd just be great. We're so excited that you're here. Again, you've arrived in the right place. The Rocket Company's training on digital giving. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you're from in that chat. And the second thing I want you to do is just focus, right? I'm putting my own phone here on some airplane modes. I'm closing down windows. Let's be focused. We are going to do about a 45 to an hour training at the max, and I'm going to answer all your questions. I'm going to teach you some things today that can enable your church to get more total dollars coming in, more predictable dollars coming in, and absolutely give you opportunity to do more ministry, because ministry takes money. Whether we like it or not, it does. And so we're going to talk about all those things. We'll begin in just about 1 minute. Again, if you're just joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome. You've arrived in the right place. We're going to talk today about digital giving, and familiarize yourself with the chat box area. Questions, if you've got a burning question about digital giving, feel free to put it in. Erin is going to be in the chat. Welcome, Erin. We know you're there interacting with people. She'll be facilitating questions, so we are excited that you're here. Okay, everybody, let's get rolling. Tune in, all right? Dial in here. Get out something to take notes. We are excited you are here. Welcome to 3 myths about digital giving that are costing your church a lot of donations, okay? A lot of donations, and we want to help you see those myths for what they are and move past them. My goal today, as we go, is to show you these 3 things that are holding you back, tell you why they shouldn't hold you back, and then give you the right way to think about it and the right action steps toward digital giving so that you can get more total dollars for more ministry. If you stay to the end today, a little incentive here, actually 2. Number 1, I'll answer any question you have about digital giving. If you've been on our trainings before, I'll put myself in the hot seat, answer all the questions that you have, and also give you a free resource. I'll just tell you a checklist that you need to have for your digital giving provider. Whether you have a digital giving provider right now or you're thinking about getting one, I'm going to give you a checklist that you need to make sure you are using a provider that will actually help you accomplish your goals, the goals being the ministry dreams that God's placed on your heart. I want to introduce myself to you again. My name is Sam Hill. I'm a Rocket Company team leader. I've been in local church leadership for a couple decades, and I'm public speaking, finance coach. I'm passionate about helping pastors enjoy ministry. That's my great passion. And when it comes to church finances, if you're constantly in survival mode and you're strapped and stressed, you have a difficult time enjoying ministry. So that's why we're going to talk today about utilizing digital giving to get more dollars so that you can enjoy what you're doing. You can see my family there and also our crazy dog that I am somehow responsible for. Listen, when it comes to digital giving, I've done some things right, okay? But I've done way more things wrong. And so today is about telling you the things that I've learned from stumbling over the years, okay? Over the years, what I've done with digital giving, what I did for a long time is, number one, we didn't do it at all in churches that I was in leadership with. We avoided it because it was just out of the norm. We couldn't get buy-in from the elders, from the team, whatever, so we didn't do it. And then when we did do it, we had the wrong attitude. We didn't have any goals, and therefore digital giving was never really a benefit for the church. And so after doing that for a long time, I recognized that until we took digital giving seriously and we got rid of some wrong mindsets about digital giving and some wrong action steps, we'd always be in survival mode as a church. You'll always be losing, be short of money. Budgeting would be chaos and not dependable, and ultimately ministry opportunities would be missed if digital giving is not being used like it should, and you're missing total dollars coming in. You're missing ministry opportunities. And I discovered that the hard way, okay? And what I want today is to give you a better way, expose some of those myths, and give you some action steps going in a different direction. The hard way when it comes to digital giving sounds like this. Let's not fool with digital giving. Everybody seems to like checks and cash. I like checks and cash. Let's not fool with it. Or let's just get it for people who want it. Kind of a, well, we know we need it attitude. The hard way with digital giving is not being clear on goals and numbers. So many churches get digital giving, but they have no idea what it should be doing for them. And also, a really hard way to deal with church finances is only asking for money from up front when you're desperate. I always joke and challenge with church leaders, hey, there's 2 times churches ask for money throughout the year, one of which is the end of the year when they need to make up the entire budget shortfall that they have experienced for 11 months. And so they pick up a lot of money right at the end of the year, which is not a sign of financial health. It's a sign that, hey, you've got 11 other months where you're short, and they ask for money during the middle of summer when everybody's gone and needs the most. That's the hard way to do budgeting. That's the hard way to do church finances. And there's a better way. Put a 1 in the chat box if you'd like a better way to get more total dollars per ministry that are more predictable without asking for money twice a year when you're desperate and Christmas Eve or whatever, right? So I want to give you an easier way, and I want to give you a way that specifically has helped churches increase total giving by as much as 50% year-over-year increases and establish recurring donations by as much as 40%. Put a 1 in the chat box if you'd like those kinds of results and want to know how you can achieve those things. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today in the next few minutes. But I want to just give a disclaimer that results aren't typical. And I don't say that in a kind of silly marketing kind of way. I say it very seriously in that so many churches, when it comes to their finances, are unwilling to face facts and actually make changes in light of those facts. Too many churches will continue to do the same things that aren't working, and they'll be at a shortfall year after year after year. And if you took Christmas Eve services offerings away from them, almost no churches that we interact with would meet their budget or exceed their budget. And so you have to be willing to face facts, make changes, and most importantly, implement financial systems and financial processes that you stick with and see through. And digital giving is an important system. Digital giving is an important part of you having a stable donation base that you can predict and budget around and don't have to worry about just making it up all the time. And you do have to see a process to the end. You have to see a process through. A lot of churches are in survival mode, and we're going to talk a lot about that, and they don't have any process in place when it comes to talking to donors and utilizing digital giving. You have to be willing to follow a process, and I mean a calendar, etc., that I'll talk more about. Let's get to the 3 myths. What are the 3 things? At the Rocket Company, if you know a little bit about us, we've been serving churches for over a decade now. Kind of crazy to imagine that, but over a decade, 10,000 plus churches, 10,000 plus that we've interacted with about church finances. So one of the things I love about what we do is that we're kind of a hub for what's going on. And we've seen now the same 3 myths. We've seen a trend, right? We've seen a trend with churches when it comes to digital giving. 3 things, 3 myths they believe, 3 attitudes they have that crush digital giving and really prevent them from benefiting from something that could absolutely change the financial landscape. And here they are. Number one, they treat digital giving like it's a necessary evil. And I'm going to tell you how you know if you fall into that camp. Some churches don't realize it, but they're in that camp. Number two, they think that the technology features are the most important, okay? If there's anything I'm going to say, that point is going to be absolutely game changer for you. Technology features don't matter as much as you think they do, okay? And then myth number three, you think if you have it, they will use it. And I'm going to tell you what actually gets people to use digital giving, and I'm going to tell you specifically what gets people to give on a recurring basis. Let's deal with them one at a time, okay? And again, put your questions into the chat box. If you have any as we go, I will answer them here in just a bit closer to the end. Myth number one, digital giving is a necessary evil. This is the way a lot of church leaders, church teams, elder boards, financial teams treat digital giving. It's attitudes like this. Well, we know we have to have it. We know we need it, right? Which is pretty much another way of saying just it's necessary evil. We know we got to have it. All the young generations use digital giving. It's only for the young people, right? And then, well, some people might prefer it, so let's get it. We pretty much have to do this kind of attitude. Here's why this is a myth. I'll give you a couple facts and we'll reason it out here. If you've got something, scratch pad to take notes, I'll take you through an exercise too. Here's a fact. Your donors prefer digital giving. They prefer it, okay? Not young people, everybody, all right? You can look at any financial trend, any study, anywhere, and you will find that almost 80% of transactions occurring in our country occur on a card, a debit or credit card. It is the preferred payment type. It is the payment type that your donors are already using for everything. In other words, one of the only places, and think about your own life right now, one of the only places that people use checks anymore is at church, right? And that's a problem. Churches are not trend leaders, they are trend followers. Churches don't create financial trends, they follow financial trends. And your donors, you need to just understand, they prefer to use their cards, and they are already using their cards. If you only force them to do checks and cash, you are going against their daily habits, you are going against their preferences, and therefore you are leaving money on the table. Here's the hard truth that a lot of church leaders don't want to accept, but I'm going to take you through and give you real numbers. If you are dependent primarily on checks and cash, and I'm going to say either you're a church who doesn't have digital giving at all, or you're a church who maybe has digital giving, but still you're less than 30% participation. So let's just say 70% of your giving is going to come through checks and cash. If that's you, you are losing money every single year. Every year you're losing money because, as I mentioned, donors don't prefer what you're asking them to do, what you're making them do, and donors are already using their cards for everything else in their life. You know what I read last week? Fastest growing financial trend, debit cards. You want to know why it's growing so fast? Because all the people ages 20 and 30 and now 40 have so much college debt that they all have debit cards to try to control their spending and get out of the credit problems that people have had. I'm just telling you that is where people are using, that is how people are doing financial transactions. If you're dependent on checks and cash, you're missing out. Let's do some math to show you, okay? Because there's a lot of churches who have team leaders, who have elders, you know, the quote-unquote financial people who have told you you don't need to do digital giving, who have told you it's not as important as it seems. Let's do some quick math. How many tithe checks, how many cash donations do you think a typical donor misses in a year? Go ahead and put it in the chat box. How many, if I'm a check writer, all right, and I write 12 checks a year once a month after I get paid, how many of those do you think that I'll miss per year on average? Think about your donors. Be honest. Be conservative. When they're on vacation, when they're sick, death in the family, bad weather, forgot their checkbook, hey, we're switching banks right now. They're visiting kids at college, kids are sick, mother's in the hospital. Life happens, right? Life happens. Donors miss donations, right? Put it in the chat box how many you think your donor might miss on average. Now let's just run a little scenario. Joe and Jane Smith, they miss 2 tithes per year. Okay, let's just say they give $6,000 annually. They do a check once a month for $500. If they miss 2 tithe checks, how much did the church lose? Not a trick question. Not a trick question, okay? If they miss 2 tithe checks, the church lost $1,000 annually. $1,000 gone from 2 missed tithe checks. Now, let's just say there are 300 people in your church, and let's just say 300 fall in this same category. 300 times $1,000, you can do the math. That's $300,000 that are missed. In the Rocket Company, we've got churches that have been through some of our coaching programs, and they do see anywhere from 20 to 50% year-over-year annual total dollars coming in, and they're like, hey, this is crazy. Where's all the money coming from? The answer is really simple. A lot of it's coming from just Joe and Jane Smith donors that are just missing 1 or 2 times a year, spread across the entire congregation group of people. It's a lot of money. It adds up, right? Now, focus with me for a second. Why are Joe and Jane Smith missing checks? They're great people. Life happens, okay? They're not using checks every single day. Nobody carries cash. They use their cards every single day. If you focus them on checks and cash, because you're going outside their habits, you're making it hard for them to be as consistent as they could or should be. That's why they're missing checks, right? So you miss $1,000 on Joe and Jane Smith. And my challenge to you is that if Joe and Jane Smith were being encouraged to use digital, and they were encouraged to do it on a recurring basis, you would obviously not miss any donations. And here's something I want to address right up front. No more of the mindset that says, well, I don't want to pay processing fees. Processing fees are crazy. They will just absolutely eat us up. I mean, that's why we don't do digital. That's why we don't focus on digital. I don't pay any processing fees on checks and cash. Be honest with yourself, okay? If Joe and Jane Smith missed 2 checks, you lost $1,000, okay? $1,000. If they're on a recurring digital donations, let's just play a little game here. What do you think the approximate annual total for the year transaction fees would be on the same $6,000? Go ahead and put it in the chat box. Put it in the chat box. Okay? Joe and Jane Smith, if they write 12 checks and they miss 2, you lost $1,000, which is very conservative. Most studies, just so you know, most studies will say that the average tithe person will miss approximately 3 to 5 tithes per year. So when I use this analogy, this illustration, it is very conservative. It is worse than you think it is. And we're getting a lot of answers, a lot of C's, A's, and D's. The answer is D, okay? I didn't want to put the lowest on there. I thought that'd be too easy. The answer is D. If Joe and Jane Smith were on a recurring debit card transaction, instead of losing $1,000, you would only be, quote unquote, losing $185, which would mean you would make up approximately $980 on Joe and Jane Smith, right? It's unbelievable. And if you use the same analogy, and I mentioned a second ago, 300 tithe members all missing $1,000, that's $300,000. Well, $980, which is what you would make up, times 300 donors, you can do the math. It's an unbelievable gain year over year, $294,000. Now, I'm using a simplistic example, but you get the point. If you're dependent on checks and cash, you are losing money flat out, plain and simple. Got to face the facts. Digital has way more to gain than to lose. People are already using credit, already using debit cards. Digital is the fastest way and the best way to get more total donation dollars through the door. I'm just telling you, if you run this math and you are conservative, the numbers are undeniable. They will absolutely blow your mind. And too many church leaders are not pushing digital and not emphasizing digital because they don't know the numbers. So my challenge to you is you have to know the numbers. My challenge to your team, your financial team, is you have to deal with numbers and not opinions. Opinions are, I like checks, I like cash. I'm just happy with the way things are. It's easy. Opinions are, Well, I don't like debit cards. Opinions, you have to deal with numbers when it comes to digital giving and not opinions. So myth number one, we just got to have it. No, 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 no. You need digital giving in today's technologically society. You need it to get the total donation dollars that you need to do ministry. And if you don't have it, you're missing out on a ton of donation dollars. The surviving church is the type of church who is just 70% checks and cash. They've never emphasized it. They don't have digital giving, and they survive. What survival mode mean? Hey, we talk about money only when we need it because we don't want to talk about it too much. And so because you never talk about it, you don't have it. And you're in survival mode. You ask for it in the middle of summer when everybody's gone and Christmas Eve. Total survival mode. The litmus test for your budget and whether it is meaningful is not Christmas Eve. It is the other 11 months of the year. The litmus test is the middle of summer, are dollars coming in even when people are on vacation. The thriving church is a church that has emphasized digital, emphasized recurring donations, and they have more total dollars coming in annually, year after year, and they also have a stable recurring base because they haven't bought into the myth that digital giving is just as a necessary evil. They know the numbers. That's the difference between a surviving financial church and a thriving financial church. Surviving financial churches, and I consult with tons of them every week, surviving churches, when you quiz them on the numbers, they don't know them. That's the problem, and so they're being driven by feelings and opinions. The thriving churches, they know their numbers, and not a surprise, they've got more total dollars for ministry. Now, let's talk about myth number two. Technology features are the most important because maybe you're a church and you're here and you say, hey, we've got digital giving, but it's not as beneficial as we'd like it to be. Or maybe you're a church who says, we're thinking about digital and we're looking at all these different features. There's a lot of stuff out there. What really makes it go? Well, let's just say that it's a myth that the features are the most important thing when it comes to driving your digital giving bus forward. There are a ton of features, okay? It can be overwhelming if you're not familiar with all the features and all that. It can be. You can give online. Online digital giving just literally means like your desktop, okay? Your laptop, whatever. Mobile giving. Mobile giving is where you go on your phone, open up a browser, and give through a mobile-enabled browser, okay? And then separately, you can also have an app, a church app on your phone. Another form, popular, really hot button topic today, text to give. You can text in your donations. Another form of digital giving, kiosks, right? They have a kiosk at church that they go to, input their information and give, and then other kind of auxiliary features that you can get through digital giving providers right now, things like event registration, right? Summer camp, spaghetti dinners, mission trips, etc. And then, of course, ACH, all right? Now, here's what I want to do. All right, because there are church leaders who will say, well, these things are the most important. And they'll say, like, having an app or text to give, that's what's really going to make it happen. And what I'm telling you is that you need to focus on technology features that encourage recurring donations. If a church has digital giving that we interact with, guess what the number one complaint is? We don't have a lot of recurring donations. So if you're a church who has, let's just say 20 to 50% digital participation, but less than 30% recurring, meaning it's most of it is one time, you need to listen up. And if you're a church thinking about getting into digital, really pay attention. This is crucial. There are some features that encourage one-time donations, okay? Remember, the myth here is it's the features that if we got the right feature, it's going to make it work, okay? There are a lot of features that encourage one-time donations, and I've listed them here, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But the big point is this. If you launch digital giving and you encourage and push and focus on one-time donation features primarily, you are not accomplishing what we just talked about, which is getting more total dollars. You're simply trading buckets. You're trading a one-time cash, a one-time check donation for a one-time text-in donation. You need to focus on the technology avenue where recurring donations happen. What do I mean? I mean this. for the most part, no matter which technology trends and financial trends you look at, things like text to give and apps are not places where people make long-term financial commitments. Guess where long-term recurring commitments happen? They happen at the dinner table on Sunday night through the online giving platform from their desktop or laptop. Couples, individuals are not making long-term commitments via text. So if you're a church who has digital participation but low recurring, it's very, very likely because you just simply launched the features out there, and these are features that encourage, and by encourage, I just mean, here's what I mean by encourage one-time donations. You might be going, we haven't encouraged one-time donations. What I'm saying is, in everyday life, people don't make long-term financial commitments via text. They don't. There's a few exceptions, but I'm just saying, look at your own life, think about society. They don't. They don't use apps to make long-term financial commitments. They use apps how? One-time music downloads on iTunes, app downloads, text to give. They don't make long-term financial commitments. Same thing for their mobile phone. And one of the reasons why is because it's not a part of their habits, right? Texting and apps, by their very natures, are what? They're quick, one time. That's what texting is all about. It's about quick, immediate communication. It's not about long-term commitment. And so the same thing goes with mobile phones and with kiosks, right? So you have to really ask yourself, hey, are we focused on recurring donations? Because what we found with a lot of churches that are in that 20 to 50% digital participation but low recurring, they've pushed the one-time features, and they're like, hey, why doesn't anybody give recurring? And the answer is just really simple. Because people don't use those features for recurring commitments. It's really that plain and simple. ACH is definitely a recurring donation, but ACH is fading fast because younger generations don't use it. Here's what you need to stay focused on instead of the features, okay? Listen really close and write this down if you're taking notes. Don't focus on the technology features. Focus on the actual numbers and metrics that matter. And the number and metrics that matter are total dollars, are more total dollars coming in. In other words, are you recovering checks and cash monies that you're missing now by implementing digital? And then are you converting the digital donations to recurring donations? And I'm going to talk about how you do that here in just a minute. But that's crucial, focusing on the big numbers. Too many people, when it comes to digital giving, they're focused on their feelings, on how they feel about it, and what's important, and when they need it or they don't need it. And then if they get it, they're focused on the technology channels because they think that's going to solve their problems. It won't. You've got to focus on the numbers and be numbers-driven. A feeling-driven strategy. Here's how you know if you're feeling-driven, okay? Seems like the young people are into texting. Let's get text to give, okay? Not a good way to drive your financial strategy. Number one, texting is not for recurring donations and long-term financial commitments. Number two, if you're letting young people technology trends drive your financial strategy, well, they're the ones without any money. You know, I always joke, it's the young people who represent the least amount of contributors typically in typical church, unless you're in college town or whatever. Young people are the ones without any money, and they're the ones who also don't make recurring commitments anyway. So don't let young trends or whatever drive your financial strategy. Here's another one. Hey, we got a core group of people. They love using the kiosk, right? And I'm not down on kiosks. I'm telling you that the phone and the laptop and using their iPad at home when they're at the kitchen table talking about making a long-term commitment, that's the new kiosk, okay? Kiosks encourage one-time donations. Here's another one. Well, Back to the Future Bobby. That's what I call the person at your church that has convinced you that you need a certain technology feature. We've got to have Apple Play. We've got to have Google Pay. We've got to have an awesome app or it's not going to work, right? That's Back to the Future Bobby. Totally focused on technology trends that have no basis in any type of real-world financial trends, okay? People make recurring automatic payments from their desktop and laptop computers. Here's another one. We're at 50% digital giving, but less than 20% is recurring. And there's this feeling of, hey, I think we're making headway. We got a lot of participation. But my challenge to you is, hey, you're just swapping buckets, checking cash for digital. If it's not a large percentage recurring, you're actually not making any gains. You're just changing the avenues in which they give. Okay? Got to stay focused on key metrics. And the only way to stay focused on key metrics, as I mentioned earlier, is to actually know your numbers. You got to know the numbers. You got to know what digital should be accomplishing for you. Set that out in front of the team and go for it, okay? So myth number 2, technology features are the most important. They're not. In fact, recurring donations are the true litmus test for whether your digital giving is sound, okay? You want to know if your digital giving is sound? Look straight at the recurring donation number, period. If you only look at total donations, it's great if you're getting more, but you're just swapping buckets. Recurring donations are the litmus test. When we talk about churches who are beating their budgets in the middle of summer, right? And we got churches that are like, you've seen our testimonials and our case studies, like, hey, how is that happening? It's not happening because everybody's present at church. They're all still on vacation. They're all busy. They're still dealing with summer attendance challenges. The difference is they've got a lot of recurring donations. And so whether somebody's there or not, that donation is going to happen. And that is my challenge to you. The surviving church does not have a large recurring base. They're week to week to week, right? It's when church leaders say, well, we had a good week. Well, we had a bad week, right? You are weekly based in your giving. You're only looking at 5 to 7 day periods. That is not a sustainable long-term financial trajectory for your church. You need to implement systems and turn into a thriving financial church where you've got systems, channels that enable you to know, hey, we know we're going to have a good week because we already have X amount of dollars committed on scheduled recurring donations, and anything above that will be budget beating, etc. All right? Myth number 3, and we'll do some Q&A here in just a minute. Myth number 3 is if you have it, they will use it. Meaning if you have digital giving, if you introduce it to your congregation, your people, then they are going to use it. This is the most important thing I'm going to say today. Okay, so just listen up for a second, because the number one question we get asked when it comes to digital giving, people to use it. That's the number one thing, all right? And then specifically, how do we get them to give on a recurring basis? That's the number one question we get asked. So, you know, if you will just face the facts, you know you need to have digital giving. You know you should emphasize it to get more total dollars. And I'm just going to assume that you're not going to be totally bought into just the latest, greatest, cool feature. It doesn't matter. The question is then, hey, then how do we get people to use it? And I'm going to tell you how. The answer is not technology. It's what I call the 5C strategy, okay? The 5C strategy is 5 different communication channels. Here's why ultimately, the reason behind the reasons why digital doesn't work for churches, and that is they don't communicate about it. They think if they just introduce it, then people are going to use it, all right? Here's what a 5C communication strategy looks like. It means you communicate through 5 different channels. What do I mean? I mean that you communicate about donations from 5 different avenues. Most churches only talk about giving from one place, and that is up front during a giving talk. They might send out a yearly letter, okay? What I'm telling you, the 5C strategy is about communicating to your donors through 5 separate channels once a season. Once a season, you utilize each of these channels. Some of them you might use more, but broadly speaking, 5 different channels once a season. What do I mean? Well, one channel up front, right? Whether it's a giving talk, offering plate talk, a sermon. Another channel, email, right? Another channel, texting. Another channel, audio visual, like a video about giving and your mission and why you need donation dollars. Or maybe it's just a simple slide if you can't get a video produced, just a simple slide. And then another channel would be a testimony, what I call the third voice, the alien voice from somebody besides the main man or woman who talks about giving from up front. That can be very useful. Listen to me. This is what I'm saying. To get people to give using your digital giving provider, you have to communicate them through multiple channels. If you only communicate from up front, you are missing probably 60% of your people, right? If you only talk about donations during giving talks, you are missing so many people, it's crazy. Because not everybody responds to the same thing. They just don't, right? Thankfully, being God's people is not about uniformity. You know, we can all be different, respond to different things. Giving talks are important. Sermons are important. Some people, though, really respond and engage with written format, like email. Some people really engage in written format, like text or a letter in the mail. Some people really respond in actual audio-visual. They respond when they see something. Some people really respond to testimonials when they see the fruit of their giving manifested in somebody who says, I've been going to the after-school program and I became a Christian and now my husband's a Christian, right? And your donor says, hey, I give money for the after-school program. Boom, they make the connection. That's a 5C strategy. To make digital giving work, you have to talk about giving from multiple channels, multiple avenues, multiple times a season, okay? Now, so that answers the question about, hey, how do I actually get them to give through our digital donation provider, communicate about it through multiple channels. Now, let me just take it a little bit further. When you communicate through these channels, you have to communicate and say three things. I want you to give online, and here's why. It's an avenue we know that you're all already using. We want to make it easy for you to give to God's mission. Here's where you go to give online, and here's how we want you to give. Now, this might be a shocker for some churches because they're nervous about talking about money and all that kind of thing. But what I'm telling you is that if you don't tell them the where and how, they won't do it. Okay? They won't do it. And you know that. The proof is in the pudding for most churches. They're not giving on a recurring basis. Why? Because you're not telling them to, right? So when you communicate with a 5C strategy, whatever channels you choose, you need to communicate to donors to give online. You need to tell them where to give online so they know how to do it, and you need to specifically tell them to give on a recurring basis and encourage them to do that, right? Because here's the myth. If you just have it, they're going to use it. Not true, right? Not true. If you communicate about digital, they will use it. If you communicate about recurring donations, they will give on a recurring basis. The surviving church is a church who talks about money only from up front, usually twice a year, and when you ask them, well, do people know about digital giving? They say, well, when we first introduced it, we mentioned it from up front, and there's a little bitty blurb at the bottom of our bulletin that also shows it. Not enough. You gotta 10x that communication strategy if you want people to engage with digital. The thriving church, listen close, they're not overwhelming their people with communication about finances. They're not. They're doing less more often. Okay? Let me just say that again. There's the perception, and surviving churches have this idea that if they only talk about finances twice a year when they're desperate for it, then it'll make it seem like they don't talk about it enough, but it actually compounds the problem. Thriving churches, they talk about finances and donations more often, less amount when they talk about it, right? So they're not just up front pouring their heart out that they got to have more money. It's less is more, and it's different channels, so that instead of trying to get everybody to only donate when you talk from up front, you can engage donors through other channels like email, like text, like letters, like videos, like testimonies. The thriving church has a multi-pronged communication strategy, and every time they communicate about donations, they are encouraging their people to give online. They show them where to go and do it, and they tell them that they want them to give on a recurring basis. Doesn't mean you have to, but we want you to give on a recurring basis. That is what the thriving church does. Listen, 3 points today. You need digital giving, okay? The first myth is it's a necessary evil, and so you're really not passionate about it. You really don't have a number. You need to be focused on numbers when it comes to digital giving, okay? Now, second point we talked about today, you've got to make sure that you're focused on recurring donation features, and you can't be feeling driven. Too many churches only focus on all the really cool features that are fine, by the way. Text to give, is it cool? Of course it's cool. I mean, that's amazing. You can just text in a donation. Is an app cool? It's cool. But guess what? People aren't making long-term commitments through those channels. They're not. You've got to make sure you know the numbers and you are driving a strategy that's focused on achieving those numbers. And the way to do that is like a thriving church through a multi-pronged communication strategy. Now, let's do some questions. I'm going to tap in Aaron here and go ahead and let me know what people want to talk about when it comes to digital giving. I know we've had some questions already emailed in if we need to use those, but feel free to ask the ones from the chat box here.
Yeah, absolutely. Barry wants to know if you have any suggestions for educating older members to use digital giving.
For sure. So 2 answers that I'll give to that, Barry. Number 1 is older members are already using digital, okay? So that you don't have to educate them as much as you think you do, right? One of the perceptions is it's only for young people. I don't care what the age is. You look at any financial trend, everybody is using cards every day, all the time. Older people are not writing, most old people, okay, some are, but older people are not taking checks and cash with them all over their towns and their cities paying for stuff. They're not. They're using debit cards and credit cards like everybody else. So just make sure that you're not believing that they need special education because they use a lot of checks and cash. They don't. There's nothing that says that. Number 2, just like I said earlier, you just got to make sure that you show them where to go and how to do it, and keep it simple. This is another reason why, listen very close, everybody listen very close. This is another reason why you don't need to emphasize all the quote-unquote cool features like text to give, because everybody's using debit and credit cards. Who are going to be the people that are most likely to use apps and texts and all this stuff? Young people. They don't have much money, okay? It's the older donors. What Barry's asking is a fantastic question, because a lot of the consistent financial givers are in the 40, 50, 60 and above range. They're not going to be wheeling and dealing via text and apps. It ain't going to happen. They're going to use their desktop and their laptop. So that's why it's even more important that when you communicate about it, you show them through a laptop or a desktop. An elderly person, an older person who's never done any type of financial transaction through text in their lives is not going to make their first one with the church. It's just not how it's going to work. Remember, churches are technology trend followers, not trend leaders. Next question, Aaron. Great question, Barry. I love it.
Kevin wants to know if there's a difference between digital and online giving.
No, they're the same thing. So I'm going to just go back here. So underneath, quote unquote, digital giving being a kind of a broad spectrum, one of the ways you can give on digital is by going online, okay? So going online would be like you're at your laptop or your desktop, you open up Internet Explorer or Firefox, whatever your browser is, and you go to your church website, you click on the donate button, and it takes you to a donation kind of area, okay? That's what we mean by that. Really good question. And you can do that now through lots of different other types of devices, iPads, iPhones, Kindles, all that good stuff. You can, anywhere you can access a browser, you can give digitally online. So great question. What else we got?
Heather serves a congregation that averages 15 to 20 in worship on Sunday. Is digital giving practical for small congregations?
Well, it's not easy to answer that question because it can vary, right? Because 15, 20 people, they're all using cards, on a regular basis, just like everybody else is. I would say probably, though, my recommendation would be not introducing digital because of the costs involved. And by costs, I just mean the service costs typically. I probably wouldn't introduce it till you're maybe above 50, I don't know, maybe 75. We've got some that are smaller, but that's maybe a good rule of thumb. Only because I think you'll spin wheels, if there's that few people there. So that's probably my recommendation there. But I would implement it sooner than later because they're all already using digital giving anyway, through other things in their lives to pay for bills, et cetera, et cetera. Good question though. What else, Aaron?
Todd wants to know, what is ACH?
Automatic clearinghouse. Great question. Let's talk about this because this is huge, because a lot of churches will say, well, we don't accept credit cards or debit cards, but they can set up ACH. ACH is where it's like a direct wire. It's a great way to understand it, from bank to bank. So remember, how you get a check and you write void on the check and there's that routing number and account number at the bottom. ACH is where the donor's bank basically wires money directly to your bank. There's no processor in the middle. There's nobody in between, right? Now, churches love it because they kind of can pretend like it's digital, but it doesn't have processing fees, which is great. I can appreciate that. However, ACH is fading very, very fast. People don't do it anymore. If you ask people under the age of 30 what's ACH, they have no idea. They don't even know. They've never heard of it because they've never used it. The debit card is the new ACH, okay? The debit card is the new ACH for the younger generations. It's same principle. It's instead of putting it on a credit and then paying that credit card company off or whatever, it's just straight from a bank account. So that's what that is. Let's do one more question, and then I'm going to take a few more questions here in a couple minutes.
Okay, awesome. Kevin wants to know if you can define what you mean by season.
Yeah, totally. Great question. So by season, I just mean that as God's people and in just everyday life, our society, we are a seasonal people. I'll give you an example. Fall is here, right? My kids started school this week. I've got 2 boys, and college football starts tonight. Not that I'm excited about it, or anything like that. But we live our lives in seasons, right? And so because of that, it's a great practice. It's a game-changing practice for your church to communicate to your people on a seasonal basis, okay? Because God's people in the Bible are in and out of seasons all the time. And in our everyday lives, whether you look at our emotional lives, and I just mean literally our calendar lives, right? What we do with our time and what we do with our money changes by the season. So give you an example. So there's 5 seasons that the Rocket Company teaches churches how to communicate to donors. Here are the 5 seasons, and I'll give you an illustration. It's fall, winter, holiday, spring, summer. Okay, these are the 5 seasons: fall, winter, holiday, spring, summer. Now, why is that helpful? Well, here's why it's helpful. Because with each season, your church has different initiatives, right? Give you just an example off the top of my head, okay? You're a church, fall starts up, you've got after-school programs for local, kids nearby. Fall starts up, you've got college kids that are in and out, college is starting. Fall starts up, families are, kids are going back to school, Saturdays are getting busy with ball games, okay? Everything is in motion because the fall is here. Different things are happening. So you want to communicate seasonally. Seasonal communication looks like, hey, thank you for donating to, the Crossings Church. The reason why we need you to give on a recurring basis is because, as many of you know, because you volunteer for it, we have an after-school program, and our after-school program reached 50 kids, et cetera, last year, and changed this many lives. So in addition to all the normal stuff, all the normal donations it takes to run the church, this is our fall ministry that's so important to us, and we need to be able to depend on your donations when they're scheduled and recurring. We know they're coming in, so we can really rock and roll with the fall ministry, right? That's seasonal communication. So that's what I mean. Hope that makes sense. Keep putting your questions in. I hope, has this been helpful at all? If it's been helpful, maybe just put a 1 in the chat box. That would be great, so we know that you've benefited from our training. I will do more Q&A here in just a minute and give you that checkbox. I hope that it's been helpful. I can't cover everything, and so the Rocket Company, and some people have already been asking, which is great. We're very appreciative. Hey, do you have digital giving? What does it look like to work with the Rocket Company? So we do, because old habits die hard, and you're going to leave this training. Some of you want to make changes right now. And so you'll be excited. We have Rocket Donations. And Rocket Donations is an all-in-one giving solution. Here's what our solution includes. It includes a digital giving technology bundle. What does that mean? It's just a fancy, techie way of saying we've got an online giving platform, mobile-enabled giving platform, text giving platform. They can give via text. We have kiosks if you want them. You get lots of reporting on each donor, monthly, weekly, you name it, recurring, non-recurring, which way they're giving. We've even got event registrations. You can register people for events. You can even have a store if you want. If you want to have a storefront online. Digital Giving Technology Bundle is included, $997 annual value. Also includes our Quick Start Launch Program. Well, what does that mean? It means that we have full-time staff people that are dedicated to getting your digital giving implemented like by Sunday as quickly as possible. It is about going for it, launching, not trying to get everything perfectly in order, but going for it. Also includes monthly coaching calls from leaders from the Rocket Company. Just like you've been on this training today, we do monthly coaching calls so that you are driving the digital giving bus forward in the right way. And then most importantly, it includes the Spark Communication Suite. So in addition to all the above, you get the Spark Communication Suite, over $3,000 of value. Now, what is the Spark Communication Suite? Hey, what's that? That's something different. It's this. It's every season that I just mentioned, fall, winter, holiday, spring, summer. You get, for each season, a collection of done-for-you emails, pre-written for your donors, done-for-you professionally produced videos, done-for-you professionally produced slides and visuals, done-for-you sermons with sermon slides and notes, done-for-you giving talks, done-for-you letters. There's also financial guides, all types of stuff. 5 times a year, 5 separate times, you will get a suite released to you for that season that contains the following. And so you will have communication resources that you can use each season. Who's a good fit for Rocket Donations? Well, it's 3 types of churches. Churches that don't have digital giving at all. And one of the reasons you don't have it, maybe because you just think, man, we just don't have the bandwidth to talk about it and emphasize it. That's exactly why we have Spark included with Rocket Donations. Maybe you're a church that has had digital giving. We've had a lot of churches that had it in the past, but not a lot of people were using it. And the reason why they weren't using it is for lack of communication, which is, listen, we get it. Communications, it's the absolute X factor. You can throw out, technology a dime a dozen. It's the communication that actually makes it work. Or we've had churches that had a lot of digital participation. We've had churches, everybody, as high as 65% total digital participation, but they've been less than 30%, less than 20%, some less than 10% recurring, and they're totally frustrated. And they're like, why aren't people giving on a recurring basis? It's because of the lack of communication. And we know how busy you are, and so we know that you writing emails and letters and slides, it's not going to happen. A financial team member who says, well, I'll do it, they'll do it for 30 days, and then it won't happen again for 11 months. You need a sustained system that you can follow, which is exactly what Rocket Donations is. You get the technology, you get the quick start program, so you actually have somebody who's going to tell you exactly how to get going, step by step. They're going to hold your hand so you're up and running. Coaching calls so you actually can make sure you're implementing it, and then we're going to literally give you the resources communication-wise, what we call Spark, season by season, 5 times a year, over $3,200 in technology, service, coaching resources, normally $997. That's what we charge churches. Today only in our webinar, we're going to have 20 churches come on board, and the reason why we keep it small is because we're very high touch. Digital giving is all about implementation, so you can get started today for $29 a month. There's a one-time integration fee of $249. That's the fee to get the technology in place, get it all set up with your bank host, get the quick start. We have staff members that will help you get this up and rolling. $29 a month for the service. And I want you to go fundyourchurchnow.com, fundyourchurchnow.com, and you can access this one-time offer for 20 churches, $29 a month, okay? And here's the crazy thing. It includes everything that I mentioned. So a lot of churches will go, oh, so it's $249 or $997 every year, to get Spark? No, you get lifetime access to Spark 5 times a year, every single season. It's $29 a month. What we're also going to include today, our fast action bonus, for the first 10 churches that hop on is what we call Know the Numbers. And it's an entire coaching program that gives you just a platform and a step-by-step system to work through budgeting, work through financial teams, reporting. $639 value. We're just going to give it to you. We're just going to give it to you as part of this offer. $29 today. Go to fundyourchurchnow.com to access Rocket Donations. Here's everything you're going to get, including the fast action bonus, the technology bundle, quick start program, coaching calls, Spark 5 times a year through all those different channels, emails and videos and letters and on. And our fast action bonus, $29 a month. The surviving church doesn't have digital giving. They don't have communication that is structured through multiple channels. The thriving church will implement a system that will keep them on track. That is the key, and that is exactly what you can access today for 20 churches, so we can stay high touch, hold your hand, and make sure that you get this up and running. Go to fundyourchurchnow.com and sign up for Rocket donations. Now, I'm gonna give you here this checklist for digital giving, and the checklist is really simple. Okay, the checklist is just simply this: does your digital giving provider give you 5 different types of communication every year? Here's the bottom line: talking from up front to your donors, and if you just think about it, it makes total sense. It does not reach all that many people, right? What happens during offering plate time? Well, I've got 2 kids, so I can tell you what happens with my offering plate time at church. I'm distracted. It's just busy. Offering plate time will reach very few people. You need to be communicating through tons of different channels consistently, not all at once. I'm not talking about sending a donor an email and a letter and a sermon series and everything on one Sunday. I'm talking about if you will communicate in greater frequency with smaller little, what I call bullets, versus a cannonball twice a year, you'll be way more successful in the long run. Go to fundyourchurchnow.com, and for $29 a month, you can access Rocket donations. Here's everything that you're going to get today. 20 churches. Our Quick Start Launch program is for the church that says, we are ready to go. We're tired of missing out on donations. You show us what to do. You show us how to start, and we're going to do it. We're going to literally give you the resource and say, hey, send this email out this Sunday. Here's the script to say on Sunday morning to kick this off, and we're going to help you get rolling, and we're going to throw in know the numbers as well. $29 a month, fundyourchurchnow.com. I am just so thankful that you've been here. Digital giving is absolutely crucial. We are excited for a couple churches that have already taken advantage of our offer, and there's a few more spots left here. Fundyourchurchnow.com, and go and make digital giving a priority, because it is a priority in your people's lives already every day. Go and make recurring donations a priority, because it's the only thing that will give you budget stability. And go and make communication a priority. It is the only thing that will allow recurring donations to actually happen, is by talking about it. My name's Sam Hill. I'm a team leader at the Rocket Company. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you on our next training. We'll keep fundyourchurchnow.com up just a little bit longer. I'm being told there's a couple spots left, but not many. So go ahead and go hop all over that offer, and we'll talk to you very soon.